Hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my card making space. And as the title of the video says, the first video for my Valentine's 2025 series. I do not remember how many years of series I've done for Valentine's cards. However, if you are new to my channel or my content, things like that, when it comes to Valentine's, the vast majority of the cards I make are what I like to call Valentine adjacent. They're not specifically like Happy Valentine's Day. I kind of do whatever, you know. Some of them, like today's ones, are going to be very like Valentine's heavy, and then others are they just kind of fit the time of year, and I just include them. And my thing with Valentine's is I generally make the majority of them that in a way that I can just send them to anyone. You know, it's more like, hey, thinking of you. Hey, love ya. You're awesome. That sort of a thing. And some of them are full on like red, pink, roses, chocolates, you know, just depends. So I like the variety, and I like to make them more to suit whoever. So that's my disclaimer on the Valentine series, and then we'll just see what happens. Okay. Second disclaimer, this video is actually part of a blog hop. Pretty Pink Posh, their first release for 2025, their January release, is available now. I will link to the new release in the description box below. It is a big release. There's a lot, and it's, as always, so fun. I love Pretty Pink Posh. I have since she started her company. It's been a decade now, I think. Something like that. And this release, no exception. I love. I will have more videos coming. But today's one is part of a hop. It is day one of multiple days of hops. So there's going to be tons and tons of inspiration giveaways. I will have info in my blog post linked below. And I will have links to everything I used in the description box below, as I always do. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links and end up ordering something, I do get a little kickback from that order at no extra cost to you. It is what helps pay the bills, keeps the heaters going, enables me to continue bringing content. That's enough rambling from me. Let's get into making these cards. Of course, I went with the little ghosties as my first makes for this release. So I started off with my background, and to do that, I die cut some panels of white cardstock with the new XOXO pierced plate wafer die. So it just pierces in that detail, which on its own, super cute, but I wanted to add to it. So then I took the circle grid stencil. There was several stencils as part of this release, and there was several like this, very geometric, which, as usual, when I first looked at them, when I first saw this release, I was like, you know. It's always funny. And then, but I've said this a million times, I love geometric backgrounds, whether it's wafer dies, stencils, things like that, because they go with anything. And this one was, at first I was just like, it's circles, you know. Oh, I had fun with it. I foresee myself using this one quite a lot. So all I did was I just stuck those die cut backgrounds to my big sticky mat, used the stencil, and then I blended Tumbled glass distress ink, and I kept it heavier at the bottom, and then I just faded it out towards the top, and I did that on both backgrounds. I set those aside. I'll come back to those backgrounds in a minute. But while I had, all this sitting here, I'm going to use the stencil on the insides of my cards as well, just to give it that pattern, and because I was really liking this circle stencil. So my card bases are top folding A2 white note cards, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And I did the same thing. I just blended a little heavier towards the bottom, and then just let it fade towards the score line on the insides of these cards using that same Tumbled glass distress ink. So now, set those aside. I'll come back to the insides later. There's always a method to madness. Anyway, for the card fronts, I've put them in my splat box, and I'm using Tumbled glass distress oxide spray. Just to add texture, splatter, fun stuff. So I kind of sprayed more from the bottoms of these, so the splatter kind of went upwards. It just adds more texture. That's all there is to it. So I did that, let those dry, and then I'm using this is the Love Word shaker dies. Technically, you use the individual dies to die cut windows into that big love outline, and then you can make them into shakers, which is super cute. And the outline, which I die cut from the pink cardstock there, has the stitching detail that Pretty Pink Posh does on a lot of their dies that I love. But I wasn't in the mood to make a shaker when I made these. I was more focused on the little ghosties. So all I did was I die cut the outline from the pink cardstock, and then the individual dies I die cut from just scraps of white cardstock, and I blended spun sugar distress ink on those, and did kind of the same thing that I did on the card fronts and the insides. I blended from the bottom and then faded it out to white, and then adhered those layers together with craft tacky glue. So you can see if you use those dies to die cut from the outline, you'll get the little shaker windows, which would be super cute. But I should have done it on even just the heart. That would have looked really cute, but I was all over the place with these. I was really distracted with this release. It was just like, ooh, piece of candy. Like, too many products, too many fun ideas, not enough time. So anyway, I added baker's twine to my backgrounds, and then I adhered those die cuts on top of it. Put them back into my splat box, and then I'm using just picked raspberry distress paint that I'm thinning out with a bit of water because this paint is thick. It also might be just thicker because it's been sitting in a drawer for a very long time. But I thinned it out till I was just happy with the consistency, and then heavily splattered these cards with that paint. So I've got that nice deeper pink splatter. Love. Just like it says on screen. So splattered these, and then immediately washed my brush, wiped off my palette. Distress paint dries permanently. Pretty much all acrylic paint dries permanently, so wash out your brushes especially. And yeah, wiped everything off. We're good to go. So then the ghosties. Valentine ghost friends. Do I need to say anything else? Like, I giggled when I opened this release and saw these. I was like, that's so cute. There's also little like wafer dies and add-ons from the Halloween release. There's that, I don't remember the name of it, but it's that little ghost wafer. It's not little, it's a big wafer die. So there's accessories to make it like holding Valentine's accessories. Seriously, just stop it. It's so cute. But I'm getting ahead of myself, one thing at a time. Anyway, I stamped these ghosties onto Simon Says Stamp Smooth White cardstock with Intense Black ink, which is an alcohol marker friendly ink. And then I'm doing very simple coloring because these are ghosts. I've talked about this in past videos. Some of my favorite things to color are like ghosts, polar bears, snowmen. You notice the trend? However, I still add, some dimension to them. And with these, I'm using very, very pale blue. I'm using Copic markers this time. Any alcohol markers are going to work. Or coloring medium of choice, And I'm just adding this blue, all these like very, very pale blues to them to kind of give them, of course, that little transparent look. Plus, these colors specifically go nicely with that tumbled glass inking that I did on the card fronts. So I started with that on all of my little ghosties. And then I add some little pink to their cheeks because, And then I take my colorless blender just to soften everything. So it softens the markings I added for their cheeks, and it also softens all the blue that I added. And when this fully dries, which as alcohol markers, they dry quite quickly, it'll just give everything a little bit of a softer look. So after I did all of that coloring, I'm going to color in all the hearts, and I'm doing a light pink and a darker pink to go with all of the die cuts and the ink blending that I did on the card fronts. So for my lighter pink, I started with RV14. Like I always do, I try to put the marker caps on screen so you can just see what specific colors I'm using. But like I tend to do most of the time, I work darkest to lightest with alcohol markers. It's just a convenience thing. Because I'm impatient. I don't have enough hours in the day. I gotta get her done. So I did the lighter pinks, and then the deeper, brighter, intense pinks for these remaining little hearts. Doing the exact same thing, darkest to lightest. And once I get the hearts colored in, I'm just going to use one little cool gray marker to add just the teensiest bit of shading to that little envelope that ghost is holding. Like, look at his little face. They're just they're just so happy. I don't know. They're just so cheerful and happy. These cards, even though I went very Valentine, pinks and, well, I didn't use reds. I just used pinks. Pinks and, aqua blue color. But these are definitely, like, for me, cards I would just send anyone. Because who wouldn't just smile opening up an envelope and seeing little Valentine ghosts pop out? Seriously. I just think it's funny. Anyway, once I was done the coloring, I used my Jelly Roll pen, my big white Jelly Roll pen, just to add some little dots and highlights, which on camera don't really show up very much. But in real life, you can see them. And they're all just kind of random. Just stuck them wherever I thought they would look cute. And then once I was done all my coloring, and of course I did all this twice, I used the coordinating wafer die set and die cut all of these little characters and those little hearts that I had stamped and colored. So got those lined up, die cut, repeat the process, die cut the other individual hearts, rinse and repeat. And then once all of those were done, for the insides of my cards, I'm using sentiments from the Valentine Greetings stamp set. And I'm going to stamp this just hugs and kisses with that same intense black ink. And then there's that little XOXO stamp in there. And I was like, that needs to be added too. And that I'm going to just stamp with Sweets Positively Saturated ink. Any pink ink will work. So I stamped that. And then one of the little ghosties gets adhered to the inside of the card. And then on the outside of the card, I'm going to adhere my card front. And this is going to completely cover the entire card. So like I said, it was a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch A2 card. So applied my glue, got this lined up, and then put my magnets on it to like press everything down, to hold it down for a couple minutes, let that glue dry. And then the sentiment that on this little black strip of cardstock is from that stamp set, that Valentine Ghost Friends. That I white heat embossed onto a scrap of black cardstock and then die cut it with a sentiment label wafer die. And all of these I'm popping up with just some thin foam squares. So just a little bit of dimension. Although now, editing self, doing the voiceover now, I should have used, at least on the one, I should have used one of my mini action wobblers. That would have been so cute. I might still have to do that. I might have to gently peel them off and like stick them on with a mini action wobble. That'll be really cute. That would be just amp up the cuteness factor times 10. Again, hindsight. Anyway. As a final bit of embellishment, besides the little action wobble I should have used, I used the Hugs and Kisses clay confetti. I was just going to use the hearts, and then I noticed like there's little X's and O's in there, and I was like, oh, yeah. Like, they're meant to be like a shaker mix, but I just adhered the little XOXO. I picked them up with my little tweezers and just adhered those on the bottom corner of each of these cards, because seriously. And then the little clay hearts, just to finish everything off. So once I got those adhered into place, these cards were complete. So like I said, very, very kind of Valentine-y, and yet I would give this card to anyone. Like, hey, beautiful, love ya, hugs and kisses. Why not? It's cute. So, like I said in the intro, I'll have all the links, all the info in the description box directly below the video. Highly recommend checking out the blog hop. There's tons of amazing inspirations, so worth checking out. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping and commenting. It helps a ton. I very much appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you, and I'll see you all very soon in the next video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!